The Starting Five podcast has returned for Season 3. Here at Big Time Hoops, we're excited to welcome back the UK-born, but now proud Mainer Abby Davids and the North Deering dweller Taylor Mannix of the Portland Underground. They're back to serve the great basketball fans of Maine their weekly dose of local hoops discussion. And now, without further delay, here is Taylor Mannix and Abby Davids with the Starting Five podcast, brought to you by Big Time Hoops Maine and presented by Town & Country Federal Credit Union.
Big Time Hoops Starting Five podcast presented by Town & Country Federal Credit Union. Taylor Mannix here. Abby Davids off this week as we get into the stretch run here on Episode 8. A lot to cover and not much time to do it. First, we'll kick things off with the Maine College Round Up, highlighting Maine programs and athletes in college. We'll then get into the Maine Celtics Minute, brought to you by Nosh Kitchen Bar. And then, of course, the Starting Five podcast that this week features headlines. Boys and girls is the first category. The CMCC Game of the Week between York and the Lake Region boys. We have comment from Coach Matt Regan on that one. I spoke with him and Lucas Bouchard of the York boys, so we'll hear from them on their game against Lake Region in the CMCC Game of the Week. We'll then get into Class A South and how it's shaping up down the stretch run. I'll cover Falmouth a little bit, and we'll also talk about a near upset in Class A South girls between Marshwood and Westbrook. We'll also get into the most likely to finish undefeated after the Valley boys survived a scare to improve to 14-0. And then I'll give you my Miss Maine basketball rankings. Girls in the South, by the way, I know there's a few up north, Madeline Dupre, who I won't have in this category, but I'm going to go over the South girls and give you my top 5 in Miss Maine basketball rankings. So stay tuned here on the Big Time Hoops Starting 5 podcast presented by Town & Country Federal Credit Union. A word from our sponsors, and then we'll get into the Maine College Roundup. At Town & Country Federal Credit Union, we believe in hoops, except the ones you have to jump through to get a great deal. That's why Town & Country has a rewards checking account with a free debit card that has no monthly fees, no minimum balance, ATM refunds, and lots of financial freedom no matter what your age is. Stop paying ridiculous fees for your money. When it comes to making a winning shot, joining Town & Country Federal Credit Union is nothing but net. Make a fast break to Town & Country now online at tcfcu.com. That's tcfcu.com. Town & Country Federal Credit Union. Membership eligibility applies. Federally insured by NCUA. Clean Me Exteriors is a local family-owned pressure washing and exterior cleaning business providing services for residential and commercial property owners in southern Maine. Whether it's washing dirty siding, removing moss and ugly stains from your roof, or making sure your gutters are clean and working properly, Clean Me Exteriors is here to help. With over 200 plus 5-star reviews, Clean Me Exteriors is southern Maine's leader in all exterior cleaning needs, providing excellent service to homeowners, property and facility managers, retailers, contractors, and more. Are you ready to have the cleanest property on the block? Give us a call today at 207-209-3799 or visit our website www.cleanmeexteriors.com for a free inquiry form and to learn more. Welcome back into the Big Time Hoops Starting 5 podcast presented by Town & Country Federal Credit Union. Let's get into the Maine College Roundup, highlighting Maine programs and athletes in college. First, we're going to head to Brunswick and talk about these Bowdoin Polar Bears. The women's basketball team is 4th ranked in D3 and now 18-0 after a win Tuesday night against the Maine Maritime Mariners, who are one of the best teams in the NAC. They're now 16-4 after Carly Davey was able to score 14 points in 25 minutes to lead this team. Mainer Abby Quinn had 10 points of her own in 18 minutes on 4 made field goals to help this Bowdoin Polar Bears team advance to 18-0 and again 4th ranked in the entire country. Bowdoin put the game out of reach early against MMA on Tuesday, scoring the first 10 points of the game, and they built a 22-4 lead just 5:26 into the contest. To show you how talented this Bowdoin team is, again, the top team in the North Atlantic Conference was just served a little bit of humble pie was Maine Maritime by this Bowdoin women's basketball team. And I had a chance to catch up with head coach Megan Phelps ahead of their game against Colby College on Friday. Again, they played Colby Saturday and got a win against Colby in that one, 61-56. Colby entering that game had been playing really well in the NESCAC, so it was an impressive victory for Bowdoin, who has dominated the head-to-head matchup against Colby throughout their history. But either way, I was able to speak with Megan Phelps. Here's her comments. Again, you'll hear her say ahead of this Colby game. She's now 2 more wins since we spoke last Friday, and again, 18-0. But here was some of her thoughts last Friday on just what's gone so right in Brunswick on the campus of Bowdoin College for this women's basketball team to excel the way they have and be a top 5 team in Division III.
Yeah, I think, Winning is always fun. Sometimes as a coach, you feel like a loss can teach you a lot. But I just keep saying to the women, like, you can learn a lot from winning too. So, we graduated three really good seniors last year, two of our best defenders. And I felt like defense is one of those things that really can set you apart, especially in our conference, which is, one of the best in the country with amazing players and coaches. And so I feel like our defense has continued to grow throughout the season, and we've had some of our young players really step up into key roles. And I feel like, especially for first years, the second semester almost feels like a new season for them. They're just like learning and growing so much, their first college games. But I feel like the confidence in our defense has continued to rise, and that always feeds offense. I say all the time, offense is where you get to show off and defense is where you win games. So things have been going well, and it's still early in the conference season. And like you said, we play Colby tomorrow, who's really good, also undefeated. I feel like it's hard to get out of NESCAC play without a loss, but we're happy with the start for sure.
Again, that's Megan Phelps, the head coach of the Bowdoin Women's basketball program. She was hired by the team back in 2022. She's also an alumni of this Bowdoin basketball team. So really, you can tell, takes their success and what happens on the court personally as a former player and loves her players so much. And, well, she says she loves winning. They keep doing it. 18-0, just unbelievable run right now in the NESCAC. The Bowdoin Women will be playing Hamilton in NESCAC play next after a little out-of-conference play at Brunswick against Maine Maritime yesterday, where again they got a big win. But they'll play Hamilton in Clinton, New York this Friday, January 31st at 7 p.m. and we'll see if they can continue this stretch of undefeated play. Again, 18-game win streak, 18-0 on the season. And one person in particular I wanted to highlight on this Bowdoin women's basketball team was Abby Quinn, a former Bangor standout. I asked Coach Phelps about the Bangor native and how she's been able to fit in at Bowdoin over the last 2 seasons.
Well, my favorite thing about Abby is that she's a good main post player. I'm an MDI gal. I think she's got great fundamentals. I remember when she committed, her coach, Jay Kemble, sent me an email. He's like, I think you got the best player in the state. I just think this kid is amazing. And Abby has just such a great demeanor on the basketball court. Even last year as a freshman, she just never gets rattled. We put her in all the time and be like, okay, Abby, we need a bucket, and she'll score. And so I think this year, honestly, she improved her fitness a ton in the off season. And that's one of the things I really like about Abby is I think she's just one of the hardest workers. She's always in the gym. She's always trying to watch film. She's not settled with having a 25-point career high or playing a lot more minutes than she did last year. I think she's kind of always looking towards the future and how much better can I get? And she really has anchored us in the paint this year, offensively and defensively, and she just plays with a maturity far beyond her sophomore year. When I'm really sad about Sydney Jones graduating, I get to think about Abby Quinn, and that makes it better.
Again, that was head coach Megan Phelps of the Bowdoin Polar Bears women's basketball team discussing Abby Quinn, the former Bangor standout, now with the Polar Bears playing a big role in this 18-0 start to the season. Let's switch over to another NESCAC team, but on the men's side, as the Colby Mules men's basketball team is also off to a fantastic start in NESCAC play. They're 3-1 through the beginning of conference play and just knocked off their rivals Bowdoin College in a 70-57 NESCAC win last Saturday, January 25th. I was able to catch up with their head coach Damian Strawhorn, who's entered his 14th season at the helm of this Mules basketball program, and he talked about what it meant for his team to take down the Bowdoin Polar Bears men's basketball team in conference play.
Yeah, it's always a great test, and for us, we have the chance to play Bates and Bowdoin twice each season. One of those games, is a non-conference game, and the other one counts for the conference standings. And I guess, fortunately for us this year, we lost the correct game, I guess, and losing both the non-conference games back to Bates earlier in January and then Bowdoin, and we're able to flip it around in the conference game. I think, again, every game is so competitive, and, it's been a lot of fun to see, I think, both Bates and Bowdoin, have strong years this year. The in-state rivalry is always big, and they were, you always expect them to be ready to play. The first game down in Brunswick, Bowdoin jumped on us early, really defended us well. And, I thought they controlled the game offensively, being able to attack into the paint space and, generated good looks. And, if they didn't convert on that first attempt, they beat us to the glass and had a big offensive rebound presence through that first game. And so, I think we were able to kind of really hone in on those areas coming into game two. Sometimes, losing can be a necessary thing if you can grow from it and learn from it and kind of correct the mistakes that need correcting. And fortunately, we were able to do that both this past weekend against Bowdoin and then the previous weekend down at Bates, such a fun environment to play in Lewiston. And, great to push our record to 3-1 in conference play.
Again, that's Coach Damian Strawhorn of the Colby Mules men's basketball team talking about that win, and he's not kidding. That was a huge win for them over Bowdoin, but also Bates. That helped them now go on a 3-game winning streak, and wedged in between the Bates and Bowdoin win is a win at Husson University, another tough NAC team that the NESCAC team has gone to take down. 97-81 was the final score up in Bangor on January 21st last Tuesday. But a 3-game win streak now for this Mules program, and of course them looking sharp. An interesting statistic from them, they are 9th in Division III in three-point field goals made. They have 193 three-pointers made for the Colby Mules, and very close to hitting the 200 mark, which only right now 7 teams in all of Division III have. So safe to say, Colby can shoot the ball from beyond the arc. And one of their games I asked Coach Strawhorn about was when they hit 17 three-pointers against the University of Maine Farmington back on November 17th. His team was red hot. They ended up finishing the game shooting 47.2% from three, and at one point were 50% from the field in the first half. They hit 18 of 16 three-pointers against the University of Maine Farmington, who, by the way, had 11 threes of their own. But I asked Coach Strawhorn about his team, their three-point ball, and that game specifically, where his team hit 17 three-pointers.
Well, it's a lot of fun. I think definitely there's a sort of a contagiousness to it. When the ball's moving and, you're playing with pace and you're creating great shots, we want to let the ball fly. The game of basketball has, changed in some amazing ways. And, you certainly look at the math of the three-point shot. And, it's probably no more obvious than what the Celtics are doing. And I unfortunately don't get a chance to watch a lot of college basketball outside of, our season and even NBA basketball. But, I was reading heard one, stat where, the Golden State Warriors, 8 years ago or whenever they started sort of really making their run and their push with all the threes, like they'd be the last team in today's NBA in terms of how many 3 points they were, getting up each night. And so it's just amazing how the game's evolved and the skill level and just shot making that's out there. And for us, I think we've sort of been a big part of our program and our identity, being able to stretch the floor and really use the 3-point line to make shots. And unfortunately, there are some nights where, you tend to go cold and, hopefully, again, those nights are limited maybe to a half or, a part of the game. But, our guys definitely put a lot of time into it. And it's something that, again, is a big part of, our identity. And I have a feeling the Celtics will come out of it and, get things going and be able to, again, have a great run to hopefully another championship run.
That again, Coach Strawhorn of the Colby Mules, and you heard him there at the end too. Asked him about the Celtics. He thinks they'll get out of it. We'll see. But the Colby Mules program right now, really one to watch in the NESCAC, the men's program. Again, 3-1 in NESCAC play. They're 12-6 overall and play Amherst College this Friday, January 31st at home in Waterville. 7 p.m. tip for that. They also play Hamilton College on Saturday in NESCAC play before traveling next weekend to Williams on the road. So a couple more home games, a 3-game win streak. I think they'd like to extend to 5 with a couple home games against Amherst and Hamilton on the horizon. Let's get into some of the other things that are taking place around the college world, especially in the YSCC. Wyatt Hathaway, big shout out to him. He reached 1,000 points for CMCC. The captain of the Central Maine Community College Mustangs, Wyatt Hathaway, added another accolade to his time with this men's basketball program. He scored his 1,000th career point in the Mustangs' 76-66 win against Word of Life Bible Institute on Saturday. Really a memorable trip to Word of Life for both CMCC basketball teams. We'll get into the women in a second. Want to focus on Wyatt right right now, who became just the 16th player in program history to reach the milestone of 1,000 points for CMCC. The former Leavitt Hornet scored more than 1,500 points in high school. He was the Maine Gatorade Player of the Year on the football field and also scored 12 of his 15 points after halftime to help his team in the victory. Shout out to Will Duke, former Camden Hill standout as well, who led the way with a team-high 16 points on Saturday. But Wyatt Hathaway continues to impress. He's been doing it for a long time, whether it be in Turner or in Auburn now, and his 1,000th point. Congratulations, Wyatt Hathaway, on an impressive career and hopefully leading the CMCC men to some YSCC titles later on in the season, too. On the CMCC women's side of things, second-year Ella Levine also reached her 1,000th point in her career for the women's team in their victory over Word of Life. Again, I mentioned, big weekend for CMCC down there. The Fort Collins, Colorado native is the 8th player in program history to surpass the milestone and the first to do it in only her second college season since Gabby Foy in 2015, according to the CMCC website. In that game Saturday, Levine finished with 12 points to continue her streak of scoring double-digit points in all 19 games she's appeared in, while adding 8 rebounds and 4 steals. Looking at the remainder of the week, it's not even a question what the game of the week is in the YSCC, as the CMCC Mustang get ready to battle the UMA Moose tonight while I'm recording. When you listen to this, there will be a result to that game, but they are the first and second in the YSCC standings, and they're separated by 5 positions in the USCAA Division National Poll. CMCC is number 1 in the country, while UMA currently rank number 6. So a battle of 1 and 6 tonight between UMA and CMCC. Get out and support local. Hopefully, when you hear this, you already did support local, but y'all catch my drift. Before we get into the University of Maine, quick shout-outs as well to the St. Joe's men, who improved to 5-1 in GNAC play, along with the women, who also improved to 5-1 in GNAC play this past weekend. Starting on the men's side, the Monks defeated the Elms College Blazers 74-54 in a GNAC men's basketball contest on Saturday afternoon. York native John Paul Frazier led the Monks with a game-high 21 points, 2 rebounds, and 2 assists with a steal to go with it. According to the college Instagram page, Frazier also reached 200 career three-pointers for the Monks. He did so in just 66 games played, putting him 6th all-time on the list with a 42% three-point percentage. Remy Jowani of Portland also tallied 18 points, 9 rebounds, 4 assists, and 2 steals in the win over the Blazers. Wani Donato of Portland added 10 points, 5 rebounds, and 1 assist. The Monks hit the road today to go to Henniker, New Hampshire to play New England College. They will then head home to play Anna Maria this Saturday, February 1st in Standish, Maine, with a tip-off time at 3 p.m. It's also worth mentioning that the St. Joe's men's team is ranked 7th in D3 scoring offenses. They average 90.8 points per game. Again, that's 7th best in Division III. Heading over to the women's side, a reminder, they're 5-1 in GNAC play. The team also knocked off the Elms College Blazers in a conference contest on Saturday. They won by a score of 83-55, and Brunswick native Logan Brown led the Monks in points with a game-high of 18 and contributed 5 rebounds. Junior Grace Ramsdell of Wells, Maine had a game-high of 8 rebounds, 2 blocks, 3 steals, and 5 assists. Junior Madison LaBelle of Herman contributed 9 points, 4 rebounds, and 2 assists as well. The Monks historically are 6-0 now against the Blazers with that win on Saturday. The women will look to get their 6th conference win tonight with the men in Henniker, New Hampshire against New England College. They also return home like the men on Saturday, except for that they tip off before the men at 1 p.m. Right now, the women are 5-1 again in conference play, 6-0 at home, and 6-5 away for a 12-5 overall record. Both St. Joe's Monks women and men's basketball teams are thriving. Let's take it on up to Orono now, where both men and women are thriving in America East play. I was able to catch up, though, with Brian Stackpole, the TV voice of both the men and women's basketball programs for ESPN Plus, up on the campus of the University of Maine in Orono. And I think I'll let him talk a little bit about the teams. You've heard me talk about them enough. Let's hear from Brian Stackpole on his thoughts on the Maine men's basketball program thus far this season. Unbelievable win against UMass Lowell last week. This team continues to impress us, and what Coach Markwood has done cannot be understated. Thank you, Coach Markwood. Ace flag coming in next year. I know for some people it's easy to look at the future, but the right now is also very exciting. This team is on a roll, and it hopefully will continue tomorrow, well, tonight when you're listening to this, against UNH. But here's Brian Stackpole on the state of the team and just what's been going so right for them.
Well, first and foremost, that win against the UMass Lowell and Costello is only the second team to win there at UMass Lowell, other than Vermont. Vermont's the only other team. They've done it twice, including once earlier this year. So Maine is in some rarefied air. No one's beaten them in the last 2 years at Costello. So Maine has just really come together. They've been up and down. I said last time, too, when I was on the program probably about a couple of weeks ago, that Maine could have won every single game except for Fordham and Duke. They're out of conference. They got snake bitten on a couple matchups, but they finally put everything together outside of that Bryant loss. That was a disappointing one, but now we know that the Bulldogs are a juggernaut. Yep. The biggest thing that we've noticed from this Maine team is that they finally gelled and they had that three-point shooting. The biggest, huge aspect to this is A.J. Lopez. He has come on. He's emerged. He's been a huge beast of a scorer and kind of unheralded, too. When he first came to Maine, people were like, oh, he could be a good complementary player, maybe a guy off the bench, but he has emerged as a huge scoring threat. Fourth in the conference right now in points per game. He has just elevated his game to a next level. Keon Burns has been hugely productive, and when you have the guard tandem of Jaden Clayton, Kellen Tynes, it's just unstoppable. Not to mention that 3 forward center rotation they have with Gribben, Tudich, and also Keelan Steele, who's basically a freshman because he missed his first 2 years with injury. It has just been a melding of everything that you've wanted from this men's team to get to their best start since the 2010-11 season, which broke my heart because they started 9-1. I was at the Hartford, the Chase Family Pavilion, broadcasting the quarterfinals. They were taking on Hartford in Hartford, the only team they had beaten twice that year, and they lost. So I'm hoping this Maine team doesn't break my heart like they did back all those many years ago. But this is just a really good start. And honestly, they're projected right now to finish in second place or first place, depending on what sort of sabermetric website you look at. And I think they have the horses to be able to get there.
That, again, was the voice of Brian Stackpole, one half of the TV voice of the ESPN Plus broadcast for the men and women's men's basketball programs. Sandy Thomas, the other voice you hear on those broadcasts, but that was Stacks. And he's right. I mean, this Maine basketball program it's incredible to hear from his perspective, too, someone who's seen them all day, just their progression. And since taking over the helm in the summer of 2022, Chris Markwood has developed the Bears into a top 60 defensive program, which is leading to more victories per season than Maine has seen in over a decade. His 28 wins across his opening 2 seasons are the most wins in a 2-year span since 2009 through 2011, where the Black Bears won 34 games. He has the Black Bears off to their best conference start in over 15 years. They sit 5-1 right now in America East action and 5 games over 500 at a 13-8 record overall. And Maine is currently on their longest win streak since 2010 and 2011, as they have won 5 straight games, 4 of which by double digits. So you kind of hear Stacks say, like, outside of 2 games, they probably could have won every one. He's not kidding. And a big reason for that is a guy named Kellen Tynes. He's a 2-time Defensive Player of the Year in America East. He's won the award in back-to-back seasons and is the only player in program history to win that award. And he's really helped establish the culture, I think, that Chris Markwood has really tried to put out. Tynes right now is second in all NCAA with 70 steals on the season. He also ranks in the top 20 in the America East in scoring, as he's averaging 12.9 points per game, which ranks second on the Black Bears and 18th in America East, but 70 steals. This guy loves getting into the cookie jar. I asked Brian Stackpole a little bit about Kellen Tynes, and he had a great answer. I want you guys to hear it, because Tynes is an all-time Maine men's basketball player, like all-time. He's going to be one of the greats, and here's Stack on him, and really why I think a lot of people who watch this program will agree Kellen Tynes is going to go down as one of the best ever.
Yeah, he's the big veteran leader, too. They all look towards him, too. You've got transfers in and out, and people will say what they want to about the transfer portal, but Maine would be dreadful without it. You look at their starting lineup, Jaden Clayton, he's a guy that came in. Keelan Steele, also a starter, not as big as a contributor to Jaden Clayton, but they're all transfers, the big key contributors on this roster. And Kellen Tynes transformed this program, but the thing he does, too, that you kind of have to watch in person is when he's defending, you'll watch him, his eyes are always moving. And even when he's not guarding on ball, he's looking at different ways and positioning himself to be able to get himself into almost a defensive back position where he's able to intercept any sort of pass and things you wouldn't even imagine him being able to get to. Right now, he's second in steals in the NCAA with 70. He's second in steals per game, and he's just a fraction. He's 1 steal behind in both of those metrics there, too. So he could easily lead the whole of NCAA in steals like he did 2 years ago when he set the UMaine and America East record when he did that. I mean, he's just phenomenal. His points per game has actually increased in conference play, too. Compile that stats. He was averaging 12.9 throughout the whole season. He's up to 13.5. And we didn't really anticipate his points per game scoring, but he's emerged and been such a huge asset in that regard, too. And in conference play, he's averaging 4 steals a game, and it's pretty regular to see him have 6 takeaways on any given night, depending on the caliber of opponent too. He's the straw that stirs the drink, and without him, I don't know where Maine would be. He's going to be a huge void to fill for the Black Bears, but they're not even thinking about next year, Nate Flagg and everyone else. They're thinking about what they can do to finally get over that hump for the first time.
That again, the voice of Brian Stackpole. Maine 13-8, 5-1 in America East play. Battle New Hampshire tonight, 4-18, 2-5, as the Black Bears look to continue their success against New Hampshire. It's one of the oldest rivals in all of college sports, by the way. These two men's basketball programs are meeting for the 206th time in the historical rivalry. Maine holds the all-time lead at 123 wins to 82 losses. So we'll see how it goes tonight. I have a feeling it'll go pretty good for the Black Bears. Now on to the women's side of things, where following a 3-game homestand, Maine returns to the road looking for its 4th consecutive win when it visits New Hampshire in a border battle. Only the 105th time all-time meeting with the Wildcats and the Black Bears tonight when these two face off. Caroline Dotsey registered a game-high 20 points the last time the Black Bears were out when they earned a 3rd consecutive victory, dominating UMass Lowell 74-44. That's a matchup that the Maine Black Bears really excel in. And looking at the season series again, or looking at the all-time series, between these two teams, 68-36, Maine holds the advantage. So the women looking to continue their dominance right now. And again, when you look at their overall record, 10-10, 5-2 in conference, 6-3 at home, 3-7 away from the pit. And let's hear from Brian Stackpole now on this team and how they've responded from a 2-game losing streak when they went and played Binghamton University and the University of Albany. They dropped back-to-back games. They've since won 3 in a row. Let's hear Brian's assessment on how that team, or how this team, I should say, has bounced back and won 3 in a row as they head into the UNH matchup.
That losing streak was a tough one, too, because going that upstate New York trip is always difficult, and Albany is, again, for my money, the best team in conference, and Maine played very admirably, even in defeat. But right now, they're sending their offense through Caroline Borman, who's emerging even more so as that veteran presence. She's getting the passes down low when she needs to, or she can still come up as the Amy Vashon high-low look, where they have it start at the top of at the 3-point, right at the top of the key, and then they drive down, and the passing is just so precision and crisp. So Caroline Borman has been that key cog in that, and she had not only a 1,000-point game on that homestand, she also dropped 34 points, her new career best, and was just unstoppable in that matchup. Because her scoring prowess and her emerging now as a scoring threat more so, and especially inside, it's not allowed all the other players to hit 3-point shots. And Caroline Dotsey has been a big key to that, too. She comes off the bench. She would be probably my 6th player of the year if I was a voting member of that for the America East. But she has just been a huge focal point in giving a little bit of rest to some of the other forwards in the rotation. But also she can hit a 3-point shot, and she's getting every single game more and more comfortable. I told Sandy before, I think it was the UMBC game, I said, just watching her in warm-ups, you could see the confidence in her eyes, the quick release from the 3-point shot. She was knocking everything down left and right. I said she's going to have at least 16 points, and that's exactly what she did. The offense is just rolling at a really good temper.
Again, the voice of Brian Stackpole, and he's right. It's rolling at a good temper and at a good time. 3 big wins against New Jersey Institute of Technology, University of Maryland, Baltimore County, and the University of Massachusetts Lowell, heading into their border battle at Durham, New Hampshire, against the University of New Hampshire tonight. 6 p.m. tip-off for the women in that one. Very exciting as UMaine men and women are starting to heat up, and it's great to see both teams excelling at the conference level. All right, folks, you made it through the Maine College Round Up, highlighting Maine programs and athletes in college. Let's get into the Maine Celtics Minute, brought to you by Nosh Kitchen Bar. A story this season has become Maine struggles in overtime, as the Maine Celtics went to overtime for the 6th time this season, and this time fell to the Osceola Magic 108-106. Maine is now 1-5 in overtime periods. The Maine Celtics struggling in G League action. And look, in the G League, overtime is played to a final target score. The first team to 7 points wins the game. Celtics are now 1-5 again in that target score portion of this. I still like it, but apparently Maine struggles in it. All of these overtime games, by the way, have been played at the Portland Expo, so go to MaineCeltics.com for tickets. Get down. The best action outside of the NBA. You'll never find it anywhere else other than here in Portland, Maine, at the world-famous Portland Expo. But let's talk a little bit about this game. Maine led by as many as 13 points. They were up 11 going into the 4th quarter, completely blew it. The 4th and OT turned into Drew Peterson, a 2-way contract player, and DJ Rodman, son of Dennis Rodman, who's battling Mac McClung and Javante Smart. Now, Mac McClung, for those of you who know, who will be in the NBA NBA's dunk contest, was absolutely dominating in this game. And again, it became basically 2-on-2 battle in that 7-point period where the final target score needed to be reached. Peterson did finish with 26 points for the Maine Celtics, 8 of 12 from three-point range. He was on fire, 7 rebounds, 7 assists. DJ Rodman, son of Dennis Rodman for the Maine Celtics, had a career-high 20 points and 12 rebounds. J.D. Davison, the household name here in Maine, added 19 points and 8 assists in the loss. Osceola, as we mentioned, was led by Mac McClung. He scored 16 of his 29 points in the fourth quarter in overtime. Again, 16 of his 29 in fourth quarter or overtime. Smart scored 16 of his 19 in the fourth quarter. So when I say it was Javonte Smart and Mac McClung's show, I wasn't kidding. They absolutely dominated this thing. McClung, again, will be in the dunk contest, and man, does he have some fire. In the final 2 minutes of that game, too, him and his head coach got into it a little bit, and McClung just came out of the timeout and literally just didn't miss a three, made all the right passes, and was the coach lit a fire up under his ass, and it was one of the most impressive finishes I had seen in the G League. J.D. Davison should give a shout-out again as well. He was named to the 2025 Rising Stars at NBA All-Star Weekend, so Maine Celtic will be represented at All-Star Weekend as J.D. Davison will make his way to the NBA All-Star Game. Maine is home tonight as I will get ready right now to head to the Expo to do the Maine Celtics. I am a statistician for them, as you all know. Maine are home again Friday night. They're playing the Iowa Wolves for the second time. They play them tonight, as you'll hear this on Thursday. I'm recording this Wednesday, but Iowa Wolves tonight and Friday, and then the Birmingham Squadron the Birmingham Squadron are going to come to town on Saturday. That should be an interesting one. 7 o'clock tip-offs for both Friday and Saturday at the Expo. That's your Maine Celtics Minute, brought to you by Nosh Kitchen Bar in downtown Portland. I'm Taylor Mannix. We'll be back with the starting five after this. Stay tuned to the Big Time Hoops Starting Five podcast, brought to you by Town & Country Federal Credit Union. The shots you never make are the ones you never take. Give Town & Country Federal Credit Union a shot and you'll be part of a winning team. Town & Country has an awesome mobile app so you can do what you want when you want it. No monthly fees, no minimum balance, a free debit card, and you can get paid for living life. Don't double dribble the opportunity to bank local and bank better, except not at a bank, at Town & Country Federal Credit Union. Join Maine's best credit union at tcfcu.com. That's tcfcu.com. Membership eligibility applies. Federally insured by NCUA. Welcome back into the Big Time Hoops Starting Five podcast presented by Town & Country Federal Credit Union. Let's get right into it with the headlines. Starting on the boys' side, the Buckfield Bucks junior Trenton Haskell had a night to remember, setting 2 school records in the process in a win over Rangeley. Trenton Haskell hit a school record 13 threes and set a school record in points with 49 scored for the Buckfield Bucks in a win. Meanwhile, Poland's Damon Martin scored 6 of his 21 points in the fourth quarter to help the Poland Knights improve to 10-4, beating the Mountain Valley Falcons. So a big-time win for Poland and Buckfield yesterday with some big-time performances in those games from 2 standout student athletes. Going into some games that happened earlier this week, Falmouth's Davis Mann had 24 points, and Falmouth as a team hit 11 threes to overwhelm Freeport on Monday. We'll get into a little bit more about Falmouth when we talk Class A in the third topic of the starting five today. Keeping it in Class A South earlier this week, Johnny Patino, a name that many remember from that state championship title Patriots team, had 15 of his 21 in the third quarter of their win over Yarmouth on Monday, while Old Orchard Beach Brady Plant, who's been coming alive in the second half of the season, had 23 points. It wasn't enough, though, as Jacob Linkletter hit 5 threes for Madison in a victory on Monday. Keeping it in Class C South, Monmouth's Levi Laverdier had 23 as they absolutely ran over Richmond on Monday. And in Class D South, Forest Hills boys, Jackson Desjardins dropped 27 over the weekend against Islesboro. Let's get back into a little bit of what happened on Tuesday night, January 28th, the most recent night of high school action, at least down here in the South. It was a loaded slate. Cheverus got a big win over Scarborough, 59-54. Leo McNabb led the way with 24 points, while Jamison Fitzpatrick had 13 points. Mr. Fitzpatrick had a great season down low, especially for this Cheverus team. For Scarborough, Carter Blanche and Adam Fitzgerald had big nights. Fitzgerald led the way with 18 points, while Carter Blanche had 17 for Cheverus. Meanwhile, keeping it in Double-A, the Lewiston boys had their biggest win of the season. Lonnie Thomas scoring 13 points to help the Lewiston Blue Devils get over the 500 hump at 8-7, beating the Wyndham Eagles, handing them their 4th loss and their 3rd straight loss. Colin Janvrin and Bryce Freeze each had 9 points for Wyndham, who are again without Tyree James right now. It was a tough game for this Wyndham Eagles basketball team. AJ Moody only finished with 2 points. Grady Dixon finished with 8 points. Without Tyree James, we're starting to see Wyndham maybe a little bit more human, a team that I thought was just a shoo-in to go back to the Class AA state championship, maybe the best team in the state, showing a little chinks in the armor. And credit again Lewiston getting a big win, 49-46 over this Wyndham basketball team who's now 12-4. But the bigger story now is this Tyree James injury. I've heard from some sources that he's about 2 weeks away, so we'll see how this impacts Wyndham moving forward, who are again 12-4 now, 3 losses in a row, and looking to get back on track when they play next against the Scarborough Red Storm on January 31st. They finished the season with Deering, so it doesn't get any easier. Their 3-game losing streak, they lost on the road 70-65 to Oxford Hills. They lost at home 66-51 to Cheverus, and now at home 49-46 to Lewiston. Scarborough and Deering again on the horizon for this Wyndham Eagles team. Tough road ahead, but a big-time headline coming out of last night with the Lewiston Blue Devils going back over 500 with a big win over the Eagles. Heading back into Class C South, we mentioned Brady Plant a little bit and how he's been successful this year since helping turn this Old Orchard Beach team around a little bit. Well, he finished with 15 points. Trot Moody added 14 points as well, and they improved to 6-8, beating the 9-8 now Winthrop Ramblers. A big-time win for Old Orchard Beach. In Old Orchard Beach, they outscored the Ramblers in the third quarter 13-8 to really take advantage of that game and find a way to win. Again, Brady Plant, 15 points. On the other side, it was Jake Galasha, with 14 points, Chan Ring with 10, and Graham Hurry with 12 points for the Ramblers in Class C South. And it's really interesting because when we look at this Old Orchard Beach team right now, I'd watch out. They started the season with a win against Socopee Valley and then went on a 7-game losing streak. Opened the season 1-7. They're now 6-8. They have won 5 of their last 6 games. The only loss to Madison on the road, 68-43, as we talked about Jacob Linkletter a little bit earlier. He's a really good player and, of course, killed them in that game from 3. But outside of that Monmouth loss, this Old Orchard Beach team has now been able to turn it around. Wins against Waynfleet, Trape, Socopee again, and NYA, and now Winthrop. They finished with Poland, Waynfleet, St. Dom's, who's a tough Class D South school, and NYA, again 6-8. But Old Orchard Beach maybe has an opportunity here to get back above 500 and find their way into the Class C South playoffs. Let's jump to the girls' side and get into the headlines on the girls' side, as Edward Little has been able to find their groove a little bit this season. They did go on a bit of a 2-game losing streak after playing some really stiff competition, losing to Mount Ayr at 61-51, and Oxford Hills only by 3 points, 45-42. They got back on the winning track against Portland, though, yesterday on Tuesday, winning 54-23. Rachel Penny had 21 points as they improved to 10-5, and now sit in third in Class AA North behind 11-4 Cheverus and 14-2 Oxford Hills. But it does feel like this Edward Little team has something to say and could potentially knock off one of the 2 big dogs here in Class AA North, especially after the way they played that Oxford Hills team. Continuing on yesterday's games, Izzy Morelli scored 24 points to help the Patriots of Grey New Gloucester get their 11th win of the season and are now 11-3 after their defense shut down the Clippers and held Yarmouth to just 21 points in a 55-21 victory. The Mountain Valley girls pulled off a bit of an upset, handing the Poland Knights just their 4th loss of the season with a 36-32 win to get their record to 9-7. The Falcons held the Poland Knights to just 18 points over the first 3 quarters in their road win. Other results from yesterday include the Valley girls going to Deergo to win 59-36. Kristen Bigelow and Madeline Hill scored 21 points apiece to lead the Cavaliers as they remained undefeated with the win in Dixfield. The Wells girls were led by Megan Mertens, who finished with 12 points. Marin Maxon added 11 as the Warriors knocked off the Cape Elizabeth Capers 48-23 to improve to 10-4. Cape Elizabeth remains winless and falls to 0-15. In Class A South girls action, the York Wildcats won 46-33 over the Lake Region Lakers, who were handed their 9th loss of the season in Naples. The Leavitt Hornets improved to 9-6 after taking a 20-5 lead after 1 quarter to knock off the Lincoln Academy Eagles 54-47. Again, the first quarter went 20-5 advantage Hornets. Gabrielle Smith and Caitlin McCoy led the way for the Hornets, each having 19 apiece. Rowan Coffin had 16 for Lincoln Academy. Brunswick traveled to Biddeford to meet for the second time this season, and the Biddeford Tigers won 55-33. Natalia Silva had 21 points to lead the Tigers to an 11-5 record, while the Dragons fell to 7-8, trying to defend their Class A state championship from last year. Lexi Morin had 15 points for Brunswick. And up at the top of AA North, the Chevrolet Stags exacted some revenge against the Scarborough Red Storm with a 56-52 win in Scarborough. Kylie Lamson had 18 points to lead the Stags. Looking at other girls basketball headlines from around the state earlier this week, on Saturday, Marie Benoit went for 27 in Halldale's win over Monmouth. We spoke last week a lot about Class C South, and well, Marie Benoit responded accordingly. So did the Madison Bulldogs, who used a 25-0 third quarter run to put away Booth Bay on Monday. Looking back to Saturday, Molly Puffer scored 18 and led Sanford to a comfortable win over the Greeley Rangers. And last Friday, we just mentioned Kylie Lamson. Well, she had 27 in a much-needed win over Wyndham. Oxford Hills also got 22 points from Ella Pelletier last Friday to get over Edward Little, as we mentioned earlier. And to wrap this headlines up on the girls' side off the court, the Wiscasset girls are going in a different direction. 2 weeks after their team snapped a 122-game losing streak, Daniel Wall is no longer coaching the Wiscasset girls team. Wiscasset Middle High School Athletic Director Brandon Rogers and I are pretty good friends, and I spoke with him, and it seems the school is just looking to go in a different direction. And look, Brandon Rogers is in his first year at the helm there. It's a tall task, I think, with what's going on at Wiscasset, and he's come there with open arms, and I think he's going to do a great job. And, you know, I wish Daniel Wall the best as well, too, but I don't know if there's really much drama to see here. Again, it's just a first-year administrator, I think, making a really tough decision. So we wish Daniel Wall the best, and also everybody at Wiscasset the best as they move in a different direction in the girls' basketball realm. Jamie Roy, the head coach of the Wiscasset boys basketball team, will lead the girls' team on an interim basis for the remainder of the season. Let's move on to the Central Maine Community College Game of the Week, which this week featured the York Wildcats and the Lake Region Lakers. It took place on Tuesday. The York Wildcats improved to 14-0 with a win over the Lake Region Lakers, 82-51. Lucas Bouchard was the player of the game with 18 points, and I was able to speak with Coach Matt Regan and Lucas Bouchard. I caught up with them on Wednesday morning, and, well, let's just hear from Coach Matt Regan on what he had to say about the 82-51 victory over Lake Region.
Earlier in the season on, I think it was January 7th, and it was a pretty tight game. We beat them by 8 or 9, and since that game, I believe Lake Region had won 7 in a row. So we knew that they were playing pretty good basketball right now, and we were without one of our other senior captains, Ryan Cummings, last night. So we knew that we needed some kids to step up, and they did. I thought we played extremely well on the defensive end, and then when we're playing our best defense and that leads to our offense, I feel like we're able to put some points on the board. But yeah, being 15-0, we talked before every game about, you're really everyone's ticket to the tournament right now when you're having a season like this. So you're going to get everyone's best effort every night. So the kids have really responded well to that. And we've had some hard-fought games and some close wins that I think shows that we have a solid team when we can close games down the stretch.
Speaking there was Matt Regan, the head coach of the York Wildcats, and you heard him. They've definitely figured out how to close games, that's for sure, without a loss. But one of the players that's helped them along the way is Lucas Bouchard. Let's hear from Lucas on just how his season's gone and how he's felt about this York Wildcats team.
Yeah, it's been great. It was a rough start. I rolled my ankle our first scrimmage against Noble. But our guys are great ball players, and they came to play those first 4 or 5 games that I was out. And it was a cool experience to be on the bench, watching our team, do what they can do. And then as the season goes on, after my recovery, took a couple games to get my feet underneath me. But at this point in the season, we're sitting good, and we're playing good, and we're locking up. So I'm real happy.
Yeah, and of course, looking at last night's game, Bud, you had a great contribution on the offensive side of the ball. You averaged 10 points this season. You're grabbing 10 rebounds, a walking double-double. What does that feel for you like to be able to bring that to the team, especially as you mentioned, fighting through that adversity and that injury, and now here you are averaging a double-double? It must be really, really gratifying.
Yeah, honestly, I'm just trying to do what I can do out there, make winning plays, find my guys, do what we need to do to win, and it's been working. It's been great.
That voice again, senior Lucas Bouchard of the York Wildcats. And what a selfless young man. I loved how he said that he enjoyed watching from the bench. Just shows you the kind of player he is and just the kind of team this York Wildcats team is. Just unbelievable. selfish, very selfless, always looking to make their teammates better, and it's why they've been so successful and collected an 82-51 win over this Lake Region Lakers team on Tuesday. And big shout out to Matt Regan. He's in his first year at the helm of this York Wildcats team. He was hired last October on the 23rd, 2024, and he was coming from Old Orchard Beach, where in Class C since 2018 he compiled a 53-40 record over 5 non-pandemic seasons. He was a graduate of Old Orchard. His father, John Regan, is a legend who retired in 2015. John Regan obviously is one of the best coaches in the state of Maine. And look, to see that his son Matt has really taken the torch, ran with it, had a great 53-40 record at Old Orchard Beach, and has now jumped up to Class B South from Class C South and found his role here at York. He's a he's a physical education teacher. He's in his 5th year there. So congrats Matt and York on the success, and it's really cool to see a first-year coach like this be able to take off. And again, one that has a history, especially in Class C South with Old Orchard Beach. So Matt Regan and the York Wildcats, again, winners of the Central Maine Community College Game of the Week, and Lucas Bouchard, the Player of the Week. You can go check all that stuff out on Big Time Hoops Instagram page, Twitter, wherever you find your Big Time Hoops fix. It's all there for you to go check out. And again, shout out to Brady King, who gets a lot of this content stuff too. He does an amazing job to allow us to be able to highlight these amazing student athletes and programs. Heading into our next category, let's talk some Class A South and how it's shaping up down the stretch run. Noble have taken a lot of the attention, but Falmouth deserve their flowers. And here's why you need to pay attention to the Falmouth Navigators and why I think they have a real shot at knocking off the Noble Knights if they get into the situation. Overall, right now, Falmouth is 13-3 and should finish second. Noble, obviously, the number 1. They split with them this season. The Navigators are averaging 60 points per game and give up an average of about 50 points per game, and they held Noble to their 2 lowest scoring games of the season. Davis Mann is definitely their best player. High-flying dunker. He's averaging 22 points per game, 4.5 rebounds, and 1 assist. But let's not forget about the other role players here. Billy Burks is one that you have to watch for. He's one of their guards, second leading scorer, 13.1 points per game, 3 assists. Let's not forget about Jackson Cameron, who's their point guard, 9 points a game, but dishes out 4 assists. He's really a benefactor of Davis Mann and Billy Burks and the offense they can produce. Jackson Cameron, really a facilitator. And Tyler Simmons, their big man, 6.7 points per game and 6 rebounds. This Falmouth team, I think, has a lot to offer, and we shouldn't just put them out of the category. I think when a lot of people look at Class A South on the boys' side, they just think of Noble. It's time to start thinking about those Falmouth Navigators in a much bigger way, because they really can, I think, pull an upset. Again, splitting with Noble this season and mentioning some of those names as players to watch as we move forward in Class A South. On the girls' side, we didn't mention it in the headlines because I want to talk about it a little bit more here. The Marshwood Hawks, along with Mount Ararat and Grey New Gloucester, have spent the season separating themselves at the top of Class A South. It may not, though, be a 3-team race anymore. And maybe it never really was, but either way, Sarah Terrio needed all 17 points to help will her team to victory. Isabel Tice added 5 of her 10 points in overtime. And on Tuesday night, the Marshwood Hawks survived the Westbrook Blue Blazes in a 56-50 win. Again, Tuesday night, this took place, 56-50 the final. Kylie Young scored 14 for the Blue Blazes. They're now 7-8. But a team in the Marshwood Hawks that at one point seemed like they were invincible maybe showed a little bit of weakness against this Westbrook team at 7-8, who's starting to creep up a little bit. Taylor Hodge and Layla Dunphy had 12 apiece for Westbrook. And yes, despite 7-8, they can hoop. Josh Young, their head coach, I'm going to speak with a little bit, and we'll hear from him next week when we talk about this team. But this Westbrook girls team is maybe going to have something to say. And I know, again, Mount Ararat, Grey New Gloucester, and Marshwood are the 3 teams that we've been focusing on, just like Noble on the boys' side. But I don't know if these races are just over. And when we get into playoff time and tourney time, there's going to be a lot of teams in the mix, and Westbrook and Falmouth are 2 teams that maybe aren't being talked about enough in these races for Class A South. Let's move on to the 4th topic, which is most likely to finish undefeated. My Valley boys, who I picked from the beginning of the season, got quite the scare. They did survive. They're 14-0. They beat Deergo 53-52 on Fisher. Tewksbury made winning shot with 3.3 seconds left in double overtime as the Cavaliers earned a huge win in Bingham. Harry Lewis finished with 13 points as well for the Valley Cavaliers as they survived the scare. Double overtime again against Deergo. The remaining schedule: away at Vinyl Haven, away at Rangeley Lakes Regional School, home for Richmond, and home for Islesboro. I'm going to say it, man. They're going to finish undefeated. I said from the jump this season they would finish undefeated, and it looks like because, well, they're avoiding St. Dom's in this regular season schedule, they might avoid a loss, and they almost got one to Deergo. But Valley, I think they're going to do it. I think they're the most likely team to finish undefeated along with their girls team as well in Class D South. Let's get to my final topic here. I will reveal to you my Miss Maine basketball rankings. Again, keeping it in the South. Madeline Dupre would be on here. Sorry, North folks, she's not. But my top 5 real quick, because I got to get out of here and get to the Maine Celtics. I got some stats to do, guys, tonight. But again, new episode coming next week. Stay tuned. We're back on track here on the starting 5. We're rolling. Abby Davids will be in as well next week. But the Miss Maine basketball rankings for me, I gave you my boys a few weeks ago. I'll have to update them next week. But Miss Maine basketball rankings for me, Ella Pelletier of Oxford Hills sits at the number 1 spot for me. Katana Williamson of Madomic Valley is number 2. Callie Parmelo is number 3 from Mount Ararat. Isabel Morelli is number 4 from Grey New Gloucester. And Marin Maxon of the Wells Warriors sits in 5th. So again, those are my top 5 Miss Maine basketball rankings. Is my favorites. Again, Ella Pelletier, Katanya Williamson, Callie Parmelo, Isabel Morelli, and Marin Maxon. That's going to wrap it up for the Big Time Hoops Starting 5 podcast presented by Town & Country Federal Credit Union. I'm Taylor Mannix. Thanks for joining me on a snowy Wednesday, even though you'll be listening to this on Thursday. I'm going to get after it. I got to go watch the Maine Celtics hopefully beat the Iowa Wolves. Also go Boston Celtics playing tonight. A lot of basketball. It's the best time to be a basketball-aholic like I am, and I'm so excited. If you guys have any other things that I've been missing, send me some stories. Would love to hear your thoughts and reaction to the podcast. Taylor Mannix signing off. We'll get back to you on episode 9 next week.